A major publisher just pulled a horror novel from shelves, not because it was bad, not because of a lawsuit, but because readers suspected it was written by a machine. Here's what makes this disturbing. The book had already been acquired, edited, and approved by professionals at one of the biggest publishers in the world. Nobody caught it. Not until ordinary readers in online forums started comparing notes. So today we're asking the question at the center of this whole crisis. When a machine can write a novel, what exactly are we reading for? The book is Shy Girl, a horror novel originally self-published by a writer named Mia Ballard. In mid-2025, it was picked up by Run For It, a brand new horror imprint under Hachette, one of the big 5 publishers. For horror fans, that was genuinely exciting. A major house launching a dedicated genre imprint felt like a real investment, but something nagged at early readers. The prose was smooth, technically capable, somehow frictionless in a way human writing usually isn't. And that feeling, it turned out, wasn't just preference. It was data. The murmurs started in Reddit threads and Discord servers. Readers flagged passages that felt eerily consistent, every paragraph pulling exactly the same weight, no variation in energy or risk, no sense the writer's attention ever wandered. Then a YouTuber named Frankie produced a 2-hour breakdown of what she called AI tells, the linguistic fingerprints large language models tend to leave behind. The video spread through literary communities and apparently made it back to Hachette itself. Within months, they officially pulled the book from publication in both the UK and the US. I want to be clear, this isn't just publishing gossip. This is a flashpoint in something much larger. AI-generated content has been creeping into music, visual art, screenwriting, journalism, but literature feels like a special case. When we read a novel, we're not just processing a story, we are attempting contact with another consciousness. The implicit promise of a book has always been, someone lived, thought, struggled, and this text is the evidence. That promise is now genuinely in question, and how publishing responds will shape what books mean for the next generation of readers. So what are these AI tells that readers were flagging? From a pure craft perspective, this is fascinating. AI-generated prose tends to be technically correct, well-structured sentences, varied vocabulary, metaphors that land. But there's a relentless, frictionless competence to it, every sentence doing exactly its job, no strange left turns, no obsessions that appear and don't pay off. Real human writing has what I'd call productive wrongness, the comma splice that somehow works. The detail that seems random but feels utterly lived in. That's not error. That is the author bleeding through the text. Think about the writers you genuinely love, not just admire, but love. There's almost always something a little weird about them. Cormac McCarthy's absolute refusal of quotation marks, Mary Oliver's obsessive return to the same small Ohio field, poem after poem, decade after decade. Toni Morrison's sentences that fold back on themselves midway through. These aren't merely stylistic choices. They're evidence that a specific human, shaped by a specific life, moved through the world and was changed by it. A language model has processed millions of texts, but it has not been changed by anything. Readers feel that absence. This is exactly where I want to bring in one of the most contested ideas in all of literary criticism, Roland Barthes' 1967 essay, The Death of the Author. His argument was radical and simple. Once a text exists, the author's intentions are irrelevant. The reader creates meaning. The author is dead on arrival. Barthes meant this as liberation, readers freed from the hunt for what the writer really meant. But here's what I keep returning to. If authorial intent genuinely doesn't matter, then it shouldn't matter whether Shy Girl was written by Mia Ballard or by a language model. The words are the words. Almost nobody actually believes that. Here's the tension that makes this so interesting. We don't read Kafka the same way if we learn he was a collective pseudonym. We don't experience Plath's poetry identically without the biographical weight behind it. The author haunts the text whether we admit it or not. Their existence is part of the meaning. Ballard's own response is worth noting. She's denied using AI, claiming an editor she hired used it without her knowledge, and that she intends to pursue legal action. If true, it opens genuinely uncharted territory. At what point does an AI-edited text stop belonging to its original author? What AI cannot manufacture, at least not yet, is stakes. I mean this in a specific sense. Human writing is full of things the writer couldn't help putting in. recurring anxieties, very specific geographies, the way a character relates to food that quietly reveals something about the author's actual childhood. When critics talk about literary voice, this is what they mean underneath the technical vocabulary. Choices so particular they could only have come from one person. In one life, AI can mimic the surface pattern of voice. What it cannot provide is the lived weight underneath it. Now let's complicate the picture, because it needs complicating. Ghostwriting, one person writing a book credited entirely to someone else, is vastly more common in publishing than most readers know. Celebrity memoirs, political autobiographies, genre series with authors publishing 3 or 4 books a year. Many involve substantial contributions from uncredited writers. The name on the cover has always been, in part, a legal and marketing construction. We've accepted this for generations without much protest. So here's the honest question. Is AI ghost writing different in kind or only in degree? The industry doesn't have a clean answer to that yet. Publishing has been through authorship crises before, and they are instructive. The Hitler Diaries, forged documents authenticated by leading historians, purchased by major outlets, definitively fake. J.T. Leroy, a literary persona invented entirely from scratch, with a real person playing the author at events for years. Clifford Irving's fabricated Howard Hughes autobiography. What all of these share? The deceptions worked because we need the story behind the story to be real. We invest meaning in the idea that a particular human made this particular thing. That desire isn't sentimental. It's structural to how we read, and it is not going away. Hachette pulling Shy Girl is significant beyond this one book. Publishers don't pull titles easily. It costs money, creates legal exposure, generates bad press. Their decision is a statement, the implied contract with readers that you are receiving the processed experience of an actual human mind is foundational, not optional. But here's the uncomfortable companion truth. The institutional detection systems clearly failed. A major imprint acquired this. The manuscript went through editing. The people professionally paid to catch this didn't. The problem was identified by readers on their couches. That should bother everyone in the industry. I bet you didn't know how large the ghost writing economy in publishing actually is. Industry insiders put uncredited contributions in best-selling nonfiction at a strikingly high percentage, and genre fiction is not far behind. Many of these writers sign NDAs that prevent them from ever claiming the work publicly. The industry has a polite euphemism for all of this: editorial assistance. We've collectively agreed not to ask too many questions. The AI situation doesn't introduce an ethical problem that didn't exist before. It forces us to look directly at one we've been very politely ignoring for decades. Here's a second thing worth knowing. Alan Turing's original imitation game paper from 1950 explicitly imagined creative writing as a future test domain for machine intelligence. He was mostly joking at the time. But 75 years later, here we are. And here's what genuinely fascinates me about the Shy Girl case. A novel gives the model 10,000 words to maintain the illusion. More words should make the deception easier. The fact that readers are still catching it, through texture, through feel, through something almost impossible to articulate, says something remarkable about what the human reading brain is actually doing. Here's a number the industry needs to reckon with. Current AI detection software achieves somewhere between 60 and 85% accuracy on prose, and that figure drops significantly when AI output has been edited, even lightly, by a human. These tools are not reliable enough to function as evidence, which means the most sensitive detectors we currently have are not algorithms. They are careful, experienced human readers. A 2-hour YouTube video of close reading is currently our best literary forensics. That discipline doesn't have a professional name or a professional home yet. It probably needs both. So what does Shy Girl actually teach us, whatever its origins? I think it functions as a pressure test for what we genuinely value in literature, and the answer readers gave was specific and worth listening to. We value idiosyncrasy over polish, productive weirdness over relentless technical competence. The sense that this text could only have come from this particular person, shaped by these particular experiences. That's not nostalgia. It's a description of what literary art is, as opposed to literary content. That distinction has always mattered. It matters more now than it ever has before. The stakes scale fast, and I want to be honest about that. If AI-generated prose becomes sophisticated enough that publishers can't catch it before acquisition, the ecosystem corrodes. Author advances fund the time needed to write serious work. Royalties make literary careers possible. The discovery of new voices requires looking for actual humans with actual things to say. Publishing has always been an economic bet on consciousness. This person has more in them, and if we invest, it will come out. AI doesn't have more in it, it has more to generate. Those are categorically different propositions. The industry needs to start treating them that way. And I want to end on this. The strangest gift of this whole controversy is that it makes visible something literature has always done that we take completely for granted. Every book is a kind of fingerprint. The pressure points, the recurring images, the structural choices that only make sense once you know who made them, these are traces of a life. We read to find those traces. We read to feel less alone in our own specific, weird, irreducible experience of being alive. A machine can produce text. It cannot produce that. Recognizing the difference may be the most important reading skill of the next decade. If this changed how you think about authorship and what we're actually reading for, we have 2 videos waiting for you. The first is our breakdown of ghost writing and publishing, who is actually writing your favorite books, and what that says about the unspoken contract between author and reader. The second is our full deep dive into Barth's Death of the Author, and why that 50-year-old essay is more explosive now than the day he wrote it. Both are linked below. And leave us a comment. Do you think you could spot an AI-written novel? I'm not being rhetorical. I genuinely want to know what you'd look for.